Okay, so let me set the scene for you. The heat was just unbearable, suffocating. Even late at night, not a whisper of a breeze. And this guy, Lee Tong, is lying on his mat, just desperate to fall asleep, but nope. Despite being totally exhausted, sleep just refused to come. But it wasn't just the heat keeping him awake. The real culprit was this racket coming from upstairs. He'd been in this apartment building for over 6 months. And in a big city, right, you're crammed into a high-rise, you could live somewhere for years and still have no idea who your neighbors are. Lee Tong had no clue who lived above him, but he'd cursed them in his head more times than he could count. He was thinking, those people, they're absolutely nuts. See, when he first moved in, he heard this constant banging and just assumed, okay, they're renovating. But in a rundown building like this, it seemed pointless. I mean, people squeezed into these tiny little apartments just to have a roof over their heads. Comfort was a total pipe dream. But hey, if they wanted to renovate, that was their business. So Lee Tong, he puts up with the hammering for 2 solid weeks. Then, for 2 glorious days, it stopped. And those nights, he slept like a rock. But you guessed it, on the 3rd day, just as he crawls into bed, the pounding starts again. He shoots upright, just glaring at the ceiling, muttering curses. And from that day on, the noise never stopped. He even leaned out his window once, tempted to just yell up at them, but he held back. Getting into a fight with neighbors, it's not a good look. He just figured it'd stop. Eventually. It didn't. These upstairs lunatics, they hammered away every single night, in the morning, even on holiday afternoons. And the building's flimsy walls did nothing to muffle it. I mean, each strike felt like a hammer hitting Lee Tong's own skull. It was driving him right to the edge. So tonight, he's utterly exhausted, he's craving sleep, and that bang, bang, bang starts up again. He just couldn't take it anymore. He sits up in bed, fuming, and he's thinking to himself, 2 more minutes. If it doesn't stop in 2 minutes, I'm going up there to give them a piece of my mind. And as he's sitting there, counting down, the hammering stopped. He waits a minute. Total silence. He yawns, lies back down, and then, bang! A nail clatters to the floor. A hammer drops. Every sound was crystal clear. That was it. Lee Tong leaps out of bed, slips on his flip-flops, flings the door open, and storms out. He charges up the stairs to the unit right above his and just mashes the doorbell. After a moment, this old wooden door creaks open, and an old man pokes his head out. Lee Tong just snaps. How many people died in your house? You're banging nails day and night. What are you, building coffins up there? And the old man, he just freezes, totally caught off guard. His voice is all thin and apologetic, and he says, "Oh, so that's it. I'm sorry, really sorry." But Lee Tong's anger, it didn't budge. He kicks the metal gate hard. "I live right below you. I'm trying to sleep. If you keep this up, I won't be polite." He just glares at the old man, who gives this helpless, bitter little smile, just nodding and mumbling, "Oh, oh." So Lee Tong spins around and stomps back to his place. Lying in bed, his anger starts to cool down. He was even a little surprised at his own outburst. Musing, could bing it was just an old guy, he thought. If it had been some stubborn jerk, we might have ended up in a fist fight. And as he's mulling it over, he notices it's quiet upstairs. Before long, he finally drifts off to sleep. The next day, after work, Lee Tong sees a small moving truck outside. And as he's walking into the lobby, he spots the old man backing out really carefully. In front of him, 2 movers are struggling with this old, beat-up wooden box. It wasn't big, but man, were they straining under the weight. The old man just keeps gesturing, all worked up. "Careful, keep it steady. Yes, oh no, that side's too high. It's gotta stay level. Careful now, careful." He almost backs right into Lee Tong. "Sorry, so sorry." And Lee Tong asks pretty casually, "You're moving?" The old man is wiping sweat off his brow. "Yeah, I'm moving. Sorry for all the noise." "What were you hammering away at every day?" The old man doesn't answer. He just keeps barking orders at the movers until the box is loaded. And only after he tied it down with rope himself did he seem to finally breathe a sigh of relief. Lee Tong heads for the elevator, but then something clicks. The old man lived alone, hammering like a maniac. What was he doing? And now that the unit was vacating, maybe the door was still open. So he yanks his keys out and climbs the stairs. Sure enough, the door's ajar. He slips inside. The place is a carbon copy of his own cramped apartment, totally empty now except for scattered junk. And in the bedroom, in the corner right under where his own bed would be, he spots a pile of old newspapers. Curious, he walks over and kicks the pile aside. As the top layer of newspapers scatters, Lee Tong freezes. The papers underneath were soaked with blood. His heart just starts pounding. He nudges a few more layers aside with his foot, and then he saw it. A bloody mess of entrails. He lets out a yelp, stumbles backward, and just bolts downstairs. He sprints to the entrance, but the truck, it's gone. And his first thought, the one that made his skin crawl, was that the old man had killed a kid. He rushes back to his apartment and calls the police. Within 20 minutes, a whole team of officers arrives, led by this sharp young sergeant named Wang. Friends called him Jimmy. He was actually a buddy of mine. Lee Tong is just pointing. It's in there. The sight made even the officers flinch. But after Wang, right buddy Jimmy, crouches down, his expression eases. As Sergeant Wang, calm, "These aren't human." Lee Tong is still shaken. "Not a kid's?" Wang just shakes his head. "Where's the coroner? Tell them to hurry up." Then he turns to Lee Tong. "How did you end up here, finding this?" Lee Tong gives this wry smile. "The guy upstairs was hammering morning, noon, and night. Last night I confronted him. Today he was moving, so I got curious. Was I wrong to call it in?" And Jimmy just says, "No way. If you see something suspicious, you report it. That's what citizens do." So the coroner arrives, takes one look, and grimaces. "Looks like dog or cat guts. Who's twisted enough to kill a pet and leave this here?" So Jimmy questions the building's security guard who remembers the logo on the moving truck. And by the next morning, they'd found the driver. The driver's this rough-sounding guy. "Yeah, I helped an old guy move. Not much stuff, just one box. But he treated it like it was worth a fortune, kept saying to keep it level, freaked out if it tilted." The lab report comes back, confirms it. The entrails were from a cat. So an officer visits the old man, a Mr. Zhang, who admits to killing the cat because he says he liked to eat cat meat. He claimed he'd just forgotten the guts in the chaos of moving. He got a stern talking to, and that was that. Case closed. Or so we thought. A month later, Jimmy Wang and I were out with some friends, and the conversation turns to, of all things, weird foods. Jimmy pipes up. "Anyone ever tried cat meat?" And this foodie friend we have chimes in, "Oh, it's not that exotic. You just wash it well, boil it in strong black tea to kill the gamey taste, then you fry it up. Tastes better than chicken, honestly." Jimmy grins. "Well, last month, some guy who loved it left a pile of cat guts in his apartment. The neighbor downstairs thought it was a kid's insides and called us. Total false alarm." I just chuckled. Couldn't tell cat guts from human? That neighbor's a bit dramatic. Besides, cats don't get eaten with the skin on, right? You'd see the pelt and know. Jimmy just pauses for a second. He looks really thoughtful. And he goes, "Huh, that's the weird part. There was no pelt." I frowned. That's off. I mean, who loves cat meat so much they'd slaughter one right before moving? And Jimmy, he freezes for a second. "You're right. The guy who reported it said Zhang was hammering non-stop. He complained once, and the very next day, Zhang was gone." Jimmy looks at me. "Okay, here comes your wild imagination. What are you thinking?" I just smirked. "Oh, plenty. Maybe our Mr. Zhang was nailing together little wooden boxes, you know, hiding them inside the body cavities of gutted cats to smuggle something out." And Jimmy just blinks at me. "You're saying he's running drugs? Look, from a cop's perspective, the case is closed. That's a job for an amateur sleuth with an overactive imagination." I just grinned back. "Fine, give me Zhang's address. This overactive amateur sleuth has some free time." 10 minutes later, Jimmy comes back with a slip of paper. A few days go by, a friend leaves my place, and I find Zhang's address still in my pocket. The note jogs my memory. So I check my watch, and wow, it's almost midnight. But then I think, hold on, Zhang was a night hammerer, right? If I show up now, I might just catch him in the act. That did it. I grabbed my coat and headed out. Old Zhangzart lived in another one of these low-rent high-rises, and when the elevator doors open on the 16th floor, I step into this long hallway, and I immediately sense trouble. There's shouting echoing from the far end. So I walk towards it, and there's this big, ruffle-eating guy in his pajamas just kicking the metal gate of an apartment. It had to be Zhang's. He's just bellowing, "Get out here. This jerk is a total scumbag, hammering nails day and night, non-stop. Come out, now." I froze. It was happening all over again. The wooden door creaks open. Zhang appears, looking rattled. The big guy sneers. "You're a man or a rat. If you're a human, you wouldn't be up at midnight hammering like you're building your own coffin." Zhang's anger just seems to evaporate. It's replaced by this nervous look. This was my chance. I stepped forward. "All right, sir, you've made your point. Mr. Zhang won't keep you up anymore." The big guy grumbles and storms off. The other neighbors who are watching all shut their doors. Zhang starts to close his. "Mr. Zhang, I came to see you."
"I'm here from the police." His brow furrowed, but he stayed silent. I had to improvise. "We got complaints about noise after midnight. I need to take a look inside." He looked wary and replied, "I won't bother anyone again." I gave a faint smile. "What's your plan? Moving out tomorrow?" That hit a nerve. His face went pale. I softened my tone a bit. "Let me in. We can talk. If you're in some kind of trouble, I might be able to help." He started waving his hands dismissively. "No need, no need." And as he waved his hands, I froze. So did he, because he realized his mistake. His hands, they were covered in blood. If he hadn't raised them just then, the gate would have completely hidden it. His face turned ashen under my stare. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice cold. "Why's your hand covered in blood?" He just stammered. It's not human blood." "Then what is it? Cat blood again? Killing cats in the middle of the night for what?" Under my questions, Zhang looked totally panicked, like he had no idea how to respond. And then suddenly, he slammed the door shut with a bang. So, that brings us to the real question here. When does a neighbor's weird little habit cross the line from just, a simple annoyance into a sign of something far, far more sinister?